My 7-year-old son looked me in the eye and said, "Mom, stop pretending you're okay. You're lying to Dad, you're lying to me, and you're really bad at it." And the worst part? He was right about all of it. But to understand how a first grader ended up being the most honest person in my entire family, I need to take you back 3 months. To the night someone threatened to take him away from me. My name is Roberta. Most people call me Berta. I'm a lawyer, environmental law specifically. And at the time this all started, I'd been working at one of the top firms in Manhattan for about 6 months. Before that, I spent 7 years as a single mom, grinding through law school, clawing my way into a career, raising Kai completely on my own. Then Julian came back into the picture, my son's father, billionaire, head of the Mitchell family empire, real estate, finance, the kind of money that makes other rich people nervous. We got married, moved into his world, and I thought, okay, we made it. The hard part is over. I was so wrong. See, I'd taken on this case against Grayson Corporation. Major company, deep pockets, dumping toxic chemicals into a residential water supply in Queens. Families were getting sick. Kids were getting sick. The kind of case I became a lawyer to fight. My firm wasn't thrilled about it. Grayson had connections everywhere. But I pushed, and they let me run with it. I was winning, too. Discovery was going our way, public opinion was shifting, and Grayson's legal team was scrambling. And then, one Tuesday evening, I was walking to my car in the parking garage under my office building. It was late, maybe 8 o'clock. The garage was mostly empty, just the echo of my heels and the hum of the overhead lights. I had my keys out, my bag over my shoulder, already mentally running through Kai's bedtime routine. "Mrs. Mitchell." I stopped. A man stepped out from between 2 cars, maybe 15 feet away. Tall, expensive suit. The kind of smile you practice in a mirror until it looks natural, but never quite does. "Who are you?" I said, and I kept my voice steady. 7 years of solo parenting teaches you how to sound calm when you're not. "Richard Lawson. I represent Grayson Corporation." He took a step closer, hands in his pockets, like we were having a casual conversation. "I thought we should talk. Off the record. If you want to discuss the case, call my office." "This isn't about the case." "Not really." He tilted his head. "It's about priorities. Yours, specifically." Something in his tone made the back of my neck go cold. "Your son," he said. "Kai. Bright kid. 7 years old. Goes to Wharton Prep on the Upper East Side." He paused. "Monday is chess club. Wednesday he stays late at the library. Friday you pick him up early. 2:15 usually. Sometimes your husband's driver does it, but you prefer to go yourself. You like to hear about his day on the ride home." I couldn't feel my hands. I've been a lawyer for 10 years. I've faced hostile witnesses, judges who'd already made up their minds, rooms full of men who wanted me to fail before I opened my mouth. None of that scared me. Not really. But hearing a stranger in a parking garage recite my son's weekly schedule like he was reading off a grocery list, my hands went numb, my chest went tight, and every single instinct in my body screamed, "Run." But I didn't run, because running is what he wanted. "Is that a threat?" I said. "It's context." Richard straightened his tie. "You're new to this level, Mrs. Mitchell. Your husband's name carries weight, but weight doesn't stop everything. Grayson Corporation has been operating in this city for 40 years. We have relationships that go deeper than money. And the people behind those relationships don't appreciate disruption." He pulled a business card from his jacket, set it on the hood of my car. "Drop the case. Tell your clients you can't continue representation. Walk away. And if I don't, then things get complicated." He looked at me. "For everyone, including the people you pick up from school on Fridays." He walked away. Calm. Unhurried, like he'd just finished a pleasant lunch meeting, and I stood there in that parking garage, alone, heart slamming against my ribs, staring at his business card on my hood, and thinking about my son sitting in chess club on Monday afternoon, completely unaware that someone out there knew exactly where he'd be and when. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I could drive. My hands were shaking so bad I couldn't get the key in the ignition on the first 3 tries. I called Kai's school from the parking garage, confirmed pickup procedures, asked about security protocols. The receptionist thought I was being paranoid. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was being the only sane person in the room. I drove home. Julian's car was already in the driveway. He was home early, which usually meant something good. I could see the lights on in the living room, warm, safe, Normal. And I made a decision I'd regret for weeks. I decided not to tell Julian. I know what you're thinking, but you have to understand. For 7 years, I handled everything alone. Every crisis, every scare, every middle of the night emergency. I didn't have someone to call. I didn't have backup. And even though Julian was right there, right inside that warm house, my brain was still wired for solo mode. Handle it yourself. Fix it yourself. Don't be the woman who needs saving. So I walked in, kissed my husband, hugged my son, and pretended everything was fine. But here's the thing about pretending in a house with a 7-year-old genius and a man who built a billion-dollar empire by reading people. It doesn't work. Not even a little. And it was only a matter of time before someone called my bluff. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I checked the front door lock 3 times every night before bed. I started driving Kai to school myself instead of letting the bus take him, which he noticed immediately because, of course he did. Your route is 17% less efficient than the bus, he told me Monday morning, adjusting his little burgundy tie in the rearview mirror. Also, you keep checking the mirrors. Who are you looking for? Nobody, baby. I just like driving you. You hate morning traffic. You've said so 43 times since we moved here. I've been counting. Maybe I changed my mind. He gave me a look. This look he has where he narrows his eyes and tilts his head like a tiny professor who's caught a student cheating on an exam. He didn't push it, but he noticed. Kai always noticed. I started working later, coming home with my jaw clenched so tight I'd wake up with headaches. I Googled how to get a restraining order in New York at 2 a.m. while Julian slept beside me, his arm draped over my waist. I flinched every time my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I screened every email twice before opening it, and the whole time, I told myself I was handling it. Julian knew something was off. He'd catch me staring at nothing and say, "Berta, talk to me." And I'd smile and say, "Just tired, big case." He'd look at me like he didn't believe a word of it. But he didn't push. Julian's not the type to push. He waits. He watches. He figures it out on his own. And then he acts. That's what made him a billionaire. And honestly, that's what should have terrified me. Because it meant it was only a matter of time. But the person I should have been watching wasn't my husband. It was my son. Thursday night, 3 days after the parking garage, I stood in Kai's doorway watching him sleep. He looked so small, 7 years old, curled up under his comforter, one arm hanging off the edge of the bed. And all I could think was, I did this. I took this case knowing it was dangerous. I poked a hornet's nest because I wanted to prove I was more than Julian Mitchell's wife. And now my son, my baby, was a target because of it. I almost called Richard Lawson right then, almost told him I'd walk away. But then Kai shifted in his sleep, and I saw something on his nightstand. A folder, one of those color-coded ones he uses for his projects. I picked it up and opened it, and my throat closed. Printouts, dozens of them. Grayson Corporation's SEC filings. News articles about the environmental violations. A hand-drawn chart in colored pencil, mapping Grayson's corporate structure. And on the front of the folder, in my son's careful handwriting, Mom's bad guys. My 7-year-old was building a case file in his sleep. I stood there holding that folder, tears running down my face, and I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. He was 7. He should have been worried about spelling tests and recess, not researching the people threatening his mother. I put the folder back, kissed his forehead, went to my room and cried in the shower so Julian wouldn't hear. And that's when Julian found out. Not because I told him, but because our 7-year-old did. Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen making pancakes, pretending everything was normal, which had become my full-time job at that point. Julian was at the table reading something on his tablet, and Kai walked in, dressed in his weekend suit. Yes, he has a weekend suit, don't ask. Carrying his iPad and that folder. He set both on the kitchen table, pulled out a chair, climbed up, and folded his hands like he was opening a board meeting. "We need to talk," he said. Julian looked up from his tablet. I turned from the stove, spatula in hand. "About what, buddy?" Julian asked. "About the fact that Mom is being threatened by Grayson Corporation's legal counsel and has been hiding it from you for 4 days. The spatula hit the floor. Julian's head turned toward me, slow, the kind of slow that made my stomach drop, because I knew that look. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was something worse. It was hurt. "Berta?" "I was handling it," I said. And even as the words came out, I knew how stupid they sounded. Kai opened his folder. Richard Lawson, senior counsel for Grayson Corporation, approached Mom in the parking garage at her office on Tuesday evening. I don't have the full details of what was said, but based on Mom's behavioral changes, increased door checking, altered driving patterns, elevated anxiety, insomnia, the threat was significant and likely involved me directly. Julian hadn't moved. He was looking at me with this expression that cracked something open in my chest. They mentioned Kai, I said quietly. They knew his schedule, his school, everything. Julian closed his eyes, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw something I'd never seen on his face before. Fear. Not the calculating, strategic kind. Real, raw, gut-level fear. The kind that comes from almost losing something twice. Then it was gone, replaced by something colder. 4 days, he said. You've known for 4 days. Julian, someone threatened our son, and you kept it from me for 4 days. I was trying to protect. Protect who? His voice didn't rise. It dropped. That was worse. You were trying to protect yourself from needing me. That's not the same thing. That one landed hard. Because he wasn't wrong. You raised him alone for 7 years, Julian said, and his voice cracked on the word alone. I get it. You're used to handling everything yourself. I missed 7 years of his life because neither of us could figure out how to communicate. And now someone is threatening him, and your first instinct is to shut me out again? I didn't know how to tell you, I whispered. I've been the only wall between Kai and the world for so long that I don't know how to let someone else in, even you. What if I don't know how? That's what I said to him that morning, standing in our kitchen with burnt pancakes on the stove and our son sitting at the table, watching us with those 2 smart eyes. What if I don't know how to not do this alone? Julian crossed the kitchen in 2 steps and pulled me into him, not gentle, desperate, like he was trying to hold together something that was breaking. Then we figure it out, he said into my hair, together. But Berta? Never again. Never keep something like this from me again. I won't. Promise me. I promise. Kai cleared his throat. If the emotional portion of this meeting is concluded, I have a 26-page analysis of Grayson's corporate vulnerabilities that I think you'll both find relevant. Julian let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. 26 pages? I had 4 days. I could have done more, but someone kept making me go to bed at 8:30. Julian handled it the way Julian handles everything, by going to war. But this time, the enemy hit back. Within 48 hours, Julian had hired a private security team for me and Kai, filed a formal complaint with the New York State Bar against Richard Lawson, and, because he's Julian, quietly acquired enough shares in Grayson Corporation to make their board very, very nervous. He also got the parking garage footage from my building, which caught the entire encounter on camera. Richard Lawson threatening an opposing counsel on tape. That alone was enough to get him disbarred. Julian called Grayson's CEO, Charles Grayson, and from what I pieced together afterward, the conversation was short. Julian laid out what he had, the footage, the share acquisition, the bar complaint, and told him to settle my case. Full amount, plus damages for witness intimidation. Charles Grayson settled by end of business the next day. And I thought, naively, stupidly, that it was over. It was not over. 3 things happened in the span of 72 hours that turned everything sideways. First, someone filed an injunction blocking the settlement. The claim was that Julian had coerced Grayson into settling through illegal means. Blackmail, essentially. The filing came from a firm called Mercer and Associates, a small outfit in Midtown that had no business handling something this big unless someone powerful was bankrolling them. Second, my senior partner at the firm, a man named David Chen, called me into his office and suggested, very politely, very carefully, that I consider dropping the case. For the firm's reputation, he said. I told him no. He told me to be realistic. I told him I'd closed 3 of the firm's biggest cases in 6 months, and if he wanted to lose me over this, he was welcome to try. He backed off. Barely. And third, the one that almost broke me. I got a call from Kai's school. I've gotten a lot of phone calls in my life. Calls that changed everything. But hearing Mrs. Mitchell, there's been a security incident involving your son, my body forgot how to work. I couldn't stand. I couldn't breathe. Julian had to drive because my hands wouldn't stop shaking long enough to hold the steering wheel. Here's what happened. A man walked into Wharton Prep at noon claiming to be Kai's uncle. He had documentation, forged, as it turned out, and requested to pull Kai out of class for a family emergency. The front desk was processing the paperwork when they followed protocol and called Julian's office to verify. Julian's assistant said no one by that description was authorized. Security was alerted. But before security reached the front desk, the man had already walked toward the library. That's where Kai was, studying with Amara, his best friend, a girl who'd transferred from Nigeria at the start of the year, and who Kai referred to exclusively as his strategic alliance, because, God forbid, he just say friend. Amara saw the man first. She told me later, well, she told Kai, who told me in his very Kai way, that something felt wrong. The man was smiling too hard, looking around too much, and when he said, "Kai, I'm your Uncle Robert. I'm here to pick you up," Amara grabbed Kai's arm and said, "His uncle's name is Derek, not Robert. We're leaving." She was 7 years old, in a school she'd only attended for a few months, and she read the situation faster than the adults in the room. She pulled Kai out the side door of the library, found a teacher, and told her someone was trying to take her friend. Security intercepted the man in the hallway. He ran. They got his face on camera, and when Julian and I got to the school 15 minutes later, Kai was sitting in the principal's office with his security detail, perfectly calm, hands folded on the table. "I'm fine, Mom," he said, when I pulled him into a hug so tight he probably couldn't breathe. Security handled it. Amara handled it before security did. I was never in real danger. Someone tried to take you. Someone tried. They failed. There's an important distinction. He was doing his thing. The CEO voice, the measured tone, the 7-year-old pretending he was 40, but I could feel his heartbeat against my chest, and it was racing. Julian was on the phone with security, getting the camera footage. He went still when he saw it. Then he showed me. The man in the footage was wearing a visitor's badge, but clipped to his jacket was a Mercer and Associates Company ID, the same firm that filed the injunction against my settlement. Someone had sent a man from their law firm to try to pull my son out of school. I looked at Julian. He looked at me, and in that moment, we were done playing nice. But the person behind all of this wasn't some stranger. It was family. And that betrayal was the one none of us saw coming. Except Kai. See, while Julian and I had been focused on Grayson, on Mercer and Associates, on the external threats, Kai had been doing what Kai does. Researching, digging, connecting dots that the adults were too angry or too scared to see. He'd found something on his Uncle Derek's laptop weeks earlier. Julian's younger brother, the one family member who'd been genuinely welcoming when we moved into Julian's world. Derek had taken Kai to Yankees games, taught him to tie a Windsor knot, told him, "You're a Mitchell now, kid. You belong here." And Kai had believed him. So when Kai pulled up the files, financial transfers from Derek to Mercer and Associates, emails coordinating with Grayson's backers, a message thread discussing how to use my lawsuit to make Julian look emotionally unstable and unfit for leadership. My son didn't deliver it like a bombshell. He sat with it. The night before the family meeting, Kai came to me in my study. He closed the door, which he never does, and stood there for a long moment without saying anything. Also something he never does. "Mom?" "Yeah, baby." Uncle Derek was the only person in Dad's family who was nice to me when we first got here. His voice was quiet. Not CEO quiet, little boy quiet. He taught me to tie my tie. He said I belonged. I set down my work, and he's the one trying to hurt us. Kai's chin trembled just once, just barely. Then his eyes filled, and 2 tears rolled down his cheeks before he wiped them away with the back of his hand. Fast, angry, like they'd betrayed him too. My son cried maybe 3 times a year. He considered emotional displays inefficient. So watching him stand there, 7 years old, trying to hold himself together while his heart broke over a man he'd trusted, I would have burned the entire world down for him in that moment. I pulled him onto my lap. He let me, which told me everything about how badly he was hurting. "You don't have to do this," I said. "We can find another way to present the evidence." "No." He wiped his face, straightened his little tie. "I found it. I'll present it. He doesn't get to hide behind the fact that I loved him." He said, loved, past tense. 7 years old. "I'm ready," he said. "Let's go." The family meeting was at Eleanor Mitchell's estate. Julian's mother, the matriarch, the woman who ran the Mitchell family the way generals run armies. Every major family member was there, every board member. And Derek, sitting across from Julian, smiling like he hadn't orchestrated the attempted abduction of his own nephew. "This is unusual," Derek said when Eleanor called the meeting to order. "Emergency session with a few hours' notice? Someone attempted to take my grandson from his school," Eleanor said. Her voice could have cut marble. "I'd call that an emergency." Kai stood. All 4 feet of him, tie perfect, shoulders back, voice steady. He connected his tablet to the screen at the end of the conference room and walked them through everything. The financial transfers, the email, the coordination with Mercer and Associates, the messages about using me as leverage against Julian, and then he put up the last message. The one that made every person at that table stop breathing. "If legal pressure doesn't work, we'll need to apply personal pressure. The child is the obvious leverage point." The child. Kai was the child. And his uncle had read that message and done nothing. Derek shot to his feet. "I didn't authorize that. I never said to go after Kai directly." "But you knew," Julian's voice was ice. "You knew your people were escalating. You knew they were threatening my wife, and you let it happen because it served your agenda." Derek looked around the room for allies, found none. Eleanor stood. "You're out, Derek." Moved from all family business operations. Effective immediately. Shares revert to the family trust. Access revoked. "You're choosing him over me? Your own son over your other son? I'm choosing the family over your ambition." Eleanor's gaze didn't waver. "Leave." Derek looked at Kai, at the 7-year-old nephew who had just dismantled his entire plan. And for a second, I saw something flicker across his face. Regret, maybe. Or maybe just the realization that he'd lost. He left without another word. And my son, my brave, brilliant, heartbroken son, stood at the front of that room with his shoulders squared and his chin up. And nobody there knew that 10 minutes earlier, he'd been crying in my arms because the uncle who taught him to tie his first tie had tried to have him taken from his school. He was 7, and he was the bravest person I'd ever met. We won. Derek was gone. Mercer and Associates dissolved within a month. Turns out firms don't survive long when Julian Mitchell decides they shouldn't exist. The injunction was thrown out. My senior partner apologized for suggesting I drop the case. Grayson's settlement went through. The families in Queens were getting their money, their cleanup, their justice. And for a little while, life was normal. Or whatever passes for normal when your 7-year-old negotiates his grounding down from 3 weeks to 1 by citing international human rights law. Julian looked at me that evening and said, "Did our son just use the Geneva Convention to get his iPad back?" And I said, "Welcome to parenting a genius." And we laughed, and it felt good. Easy, safe. One night, after Kai was asleep, Julian and I were lying in bed. The apartment was quiet. That specific kind of New York quiet, where you can still hear the city humming 16 floors below, but inside, it's just you and the person next to you. "I want 4 kids," I said. Julian blinked. "What?" 4. Big family, loud dinners, chaos. "You said 2 before we got married." I changed my mind. Watching Kai. Watching him go through all of this with no siblings. No one his own age in his corner except Amara. I want more. I want him to have brothers, sisters. I want this house to be full. Julian was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'll agree to 3. 4. 3. 4, or I'm not having this conversation." He laughed. "You negotiate like Kai. Where do you think he learned it?" 4 kids, Julian said. "Deal." He kissed me. "But I'm naming the last 2. Deal." We were so happy that night. So sure. Like the hardest things were behind us and everything from here was just living. But the hardest part of my story wasn't the threats or the betrayal. It was what came after, when everything was quiet, and I had to face the one thing I couldn't fight my way out of. Month 1, negative. I wasn't worried. These things take time. Everyone says that. The doctor says that. The internet says that. 1 month means nothing. Month 2. Negative. Still fine. Still normal. Julian and I joked about it. "Practice makes perfect," he said, and I threw a pillow at him, and we laughed. Month 3. Negative. I stopped laughing. Introduction 4. Month 5. Month 6. Negative, negative, negative. Each one a little paper guillotine. Each one a tiny execution of hope that I had to perform alone in my bathroom at 6 in the morning, before anyone else was awake. I started doing things I'm not proud of. Googling secondary infertility at 3 a.m. while Julian slept beside me. Tracking my cycle on 2 different apps. Taking my temperature every morning like some kind of science experiment where the hypothesis kept failing. I bought pregnancy tests in bulk. Hid them in the back of the bathroom cabinet like they were something shameful. And I started pulling away. Not all at once. Slowly, like a tide going out. I worked later, came home exhausted. Went to bed early, avoided Julian's touch. Not because I didn't want him, but because every time we were together, it wasn't about us anymore. It was about trying. And trying had turned into failing. And failing had turned into something that lived in my chest like a stone. Julian tried. God, he tried. Brought me flowers. Suggested date nights. Reached for my hand across the couch. And I let him. But I wasn't really there. I was inside my own head. Counting days, calculating windows, wondering what was wrong with me. A colleague at the firm announced her pregnancy at a staff meeting. 3rd kid, easy as breathing, glowing and happy. And I smiled and said congratulations, and then locked myself in the bathroom and cried so hard I had to stuff paper towels in my mouth so nobody would hear. At the 6-month mark, we saw a specialist. Julian came with me. The doctor ran every test, checked everything. Mrs. Mitchell, everything looks normal. Sometimes conception just takes time, she smiled. Try to relax. Try to relax. Like relaxation was something you could perform on command, while your body was betraying you month after month. 8 months in, I stopped taking tests, stopped tracking, stopped trying, or tried to stop trying, which isn't the same thing at all. And then one morning, another negative. And I couldn't hold it together anymore. Julian found me in the bathroom, saw the test on the counter. Saw my face. Negative? He asked. I nodded. He moved to hold me. I stepped back. I need space, I said. Please just give me space. He stopped, hands at his sides. Okay. I locked the door. And for the first time in 8 months, I let myself really cry. Not the silent kind, not the controlled kind, the ugly, full body, can't breathe kind. The kind where you sit on the bathroom floor and shake because you're so tired. Tired of trying, tired of failing. Tired of watching your husband pretend he's not disappointed when you can see it in his eyes every single time. Tired of feeling broken. The next few weeks were bad. I pulled away from everything, from Julian, from work, from myself. And Julian kept reaching, kept trying, kept being patient in a way that almost made it worse because I didn't deserve that patience. Not when I couldn't give him what he wanted. And then, one evening, Kai found me in my study. Mom? Yeah, baby. Are you and Dad fighting? No. Why? Because you don't talk anymore, and Dad looks sad when he thinks no one's watching. And you lock yourself in here every night. I looked at my son. Too perceptive, too smart for his own good. We're just going through something, I said. It's not about you. Is it about the baby? My breath caught. What baby? The one you're trying to have. I know, Mom. I hear things. I see things. He climbed into my lap. All 47 pounds of genius and attitude. Is it not working? It's complicated, sweetheart. Are you sad because you can't get pregnant? Tears. Immediate, unstoppable tears. Yeah, I whispered. I am. Is Dad sad too? I think so. But he's trying to be strong for me. And you're trying to be strong for him. Kai was quiet for a moment. That's stupid. Kai. It is. You're both sad, but pretending you're not. That doesn't help anyone. You should talk to Dad. For real. Not the fake talking where you say you're fine, but you're not. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just don't listen. And then he said the thing that broke me open. Not the CEO voice. Not the tiny professor voice. Just a little boy looking up at his mom with those dark, serious eyes. You don't have to be strong right now, Mom. That's what you have me and Dad for. I broke completely. Not the quiet kind of crying. The ugly, can't breathe, snot everywhere kind. And my 7-year-old just held me, wrapped his little arms around my neck and said, "It's okay, I've got you." The kid who negotiates seating arrangements like corporate mergers and calls his best friend a strategic alliance. He just held his mom and let her fall apart. That night, I found Julian. I told him everything, not just about the pregnancy, but about the shame and the fear and the feeling that I was failing at the one thing my body was supposed to be able to do. And he held my face in his hands and said, "Even if it's just the 3 of us, even if Kai is our only child, that's enough. You are enough." We stopped trying, took the pressure off, decided to just be a family of 3 and let whatever happened, happen. 3 months later, I woke up nauseous. I ignored it. It happened again the next day, and the next. On the 4th day, Julian noticed. "Take a test," he said. "Julian, please, just take one." I took one, set the timer, sat on the edge of the bathtub and stared at the wall because I couldn't bear to look. Couldn't bear another single line. Another negative. Another small death first thing in the morning. The timer went off. Julian was in the doorway. "I can't look," I said. He walked over, picked up the test, and went very, very still. "Julian?" He didn't say anything, just stood there, holding that little piece of plastic, staring at it like it had told him a secret. "Julian, please, just tell me." He looked up, and his eyes were full. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. And the man who built a billion-dollar empire, who stared down CEOs without blinking, who once told me he'd burn the world down to keep us safe, that man couldn't form a single word. He just turned the test around so I could see it. And I'll leave it right there, because some moments are just for us. What I will tell you is this. Julian squeezed my hand. Kai was at school, probably negotiating something ridiculous with Amara. The morning light was coming through the bathroom window, making everything look gold. And whatever that test said, whatever came next, I already knew one thing for certain. I wasn't facing it alone. Not anymore. Not ever again. So, what do you think that test said? Drop your answer in the comments. And be honest. Would you have told Julian about the parking garage threat right away? Or would you have done what I did and tried to handle it alone? Because I already know the comments are about to be divided on that one. Also, can we talk about Kai for a second? My 7-year-old cited human rights law to get out of being grounded and called his best friend a strategic alliance for an entire year before admitting they were friends. If that's not the most chaotic kid you've ever heard of, tell me who beats him. If this story hit you in the feels, or if you just need to yell at me for keeping secrets from my husband for 4 days, hit that like button and subscribe. I've got more to tell you. Trust me, it only gets wilder from here.